All right, my friends, it's Menenberg again, talking about the long essay question. If you've come this far, I'm going to ask you to go just a little bit further. We have one more video on the LEQ after this, maybe 2 or 3. I don't really, probably at least 1, okay? But we've got 5 previous parts to this. Watch them all. You might need to watch them more than once, and I apologize if it's dragging on, but listen, people, you can do this. The LEQ is important. If you do it well, you're going to be successful on the AP exam in general. I really believe that, and so this is why we're going to spend a little bit of time on each part of that LEQ rubric. So if you have the rubric from the College Board, take it out. Again, previous videos, what did we talk about? We broke down prompts, we showed you how to structure, we talked about thesis, contextualization, evidence. Now we're going to talk about analysis and reasoning. Now, before I continue, this is just analysis and reasoning part 1, but before I continue, let me just say this. As AP teachers, there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of debate about the difference between evidence and analysis. And to me, they're a little bit blended, and if you do all of the things I'm doing, or all the things I'm telling you to do well, your essay is going to get all the points. That's the bottom line, okay? So no matter how confusing this rubric is, or even how muddy these videos tend to be, if you continue to practice and continue to think about what it looks like to structure a logical essay, you're probably going to get all these points taken care of. Just watch, and hopefully this will make sense. If it doesn't, ask questions, and I'll hopefully get back to you. Okay. So here's what it says in the rubric. It says, Analysis Reasoning 1 uses historical reasoning skills, right? Causation, comparison, CCOT. Watch those videos. I have separate videos on each of those. To frame or structure an argument that addresses the prompt. So in our video on thesis, we already wrote we wrote a thesis that addresses the prompt. What this is doing is it's basically letting that flow throughout the entire essay, letting us see that you were talking about causes and effects for causation, letting us see that you're talking about this versus that in your comparison one. You're looking at similarities and differences, okay? You are doing so in a very clear way. You're going to get analysis and reasoning part 1. You need to identify which historical thinking skill the prompt includes. By doing that, it'll help you frame your essay, but remember, most prompts allow for multiple different historical thinking skills. You got to pick one and just make it clear what you're doing. Use the wording of those types of skills. So use cause, use effect, use similarities, use differences, use continuities and changes. By doing so, you're cueing the reader to say that, hey, Menenberg's writing a CCOT essay. He's structuring his whole argument around CCOT. They're going to pay attention and they're going to give you that point as a result of that, okay? A few prompts. We're just going to try this bottom one here. And analyze the extent to which the use of religion to consolidate power represented a continuity for one or more gunpowder empire. Okay, we're not going to write this essay together, but if I'm doing that, I'm going to look at continuity, right? Because the word's right in the prompt. That's a CCOT. So that's my historical thinking skill that I want to include. And I'm going to talk about how things were before this gunpowder empire did that, and how things were while and after the gunpowder empire that I'm talking about did that. Remember, it says one gunpowder empire, so let's just talk about the Ottomans. Done. Did it represent a continuity in the use of religion? Absolutely. Okay? So that's how we do it. We just structure the argument that way. You're in great shape. This goes back to our overall structure of the essay, because if you do this well, you're going to naturally include those thinking skills in the structure. Okay? Again, there's no one correct way to structure, but if you do it the way I suggested, it's going to happen. Okay? If you're doing comparison, it's going to make sense to have one body paragraph talk about thing 1 and one body paragraph talk about thing 2. So, for example, body paragraph 1, the effects of long-distance trade in the Portuguese Empire. Body paragraph 2, the effects of long-distance trade in the Mughal Empire. Long-distance trade is the topic. These are the two empires I'm comparing, similarities and differences. Makes sense that they'd have 2 different paragraphs. Very simple, but again, it spells out for the reader how you are framing your argument around that historical thinking skill of in this case, comparison, okay? Remember, clarity and simplicity is the name of the game. If the reader can follow your line of thinking or what you're trying to do in your argument, it's going to be a lot easier to check off all those boxes on the rubric and give you those points. Okay, that's what I'm trying to emphasize in all these videos, is an element of clarity. Don't overthink this essay. Don't try to be super fancy. Get to the point and get to it in a way that's very clear. And if you plan ahead, it's going to be a lot easier to do that. Okay? Now, the next one is going to be a doozy. This is probably the most difficult point for most students to get, and that is the point called complexity. Analysis and reasoning, part 2. This is also known as the unicorn point. So at this point in the video stream, I want you to just pause, ask some questions, get some feedback, let me know how I can help. We'll tackle complexity in the next video. Remember, my friends, life is about choices. We'll see you then.